A poor girl sells artwork to fund her chemo treatments, painting through trembling hands while cancer ravages her body. But when Senator John Kennedy accidentally stumbles into her world, what he does next gave her a reason to keep living. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world you're tuning in from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. The crash of paintings scattering across the sun-scorched pavement shattered the humid stillness of Magazine Street, New Orleans. Hannah Miller watched heart sinking as her watercolors, weeks of labor born from pain, skittered across the sidewalk like shattered hopes. Her knees hit the concrete, a jolt of pain spiking through her weakened frame, but it barely registered. Her eyes were fixed on her paintings, a lighthouse smeared with dirt, a crescent moon torn at the edges, a paper kite soaring against a golden sky now crumpled under a stranger's shoe. "No, no," she whispered, voice cracking as she reached for the kite painting, its vibrant hues dulled by a footprint. This was for Tuesday's treatment. That one, the bayou at dusk, was supposed to cover my meds. "I'm so sorry." A man's voice cut through her despair. "I wasn't watching my step. Let me help." Hannah looked up to see Senator John Kennedy, his face familiar from news clips, already kneeling to gather her scattered artwork with steady, careful hands. His suit was crisp-tailored, but his demeanor was warm, grounded, like someone who belonged to this city as much as its oak-lined streets. Behind him, her makeshift easel lay toppled victim of his hurried misstep as he navigated the bustling sidewalk. But anger didn't rise in her, only a crushing exhaustion that made her want to stay there crumpled on the hot ground and let the world move on without her. "It's okay," she said, her trembling hands betraying the lie. "Accidents happen." Kennedy paused, his gaze catching the shake in her fingers, not from nerves but from something deeper, more relentless. He noticed the medical alert bracelet glinting on her wrist, the way she moved as if every action was a calculated expense of energy. "These are extraordinary," he said softly, holding up the painting of the paper kite, its colors still vivid despite the smudge across its corner. The image, a girl tossing a kite into a boundless sky, her face alight with hope, seemed to hold him for a moment. "You painted all of these?" Hannah struggled to her feet, swaying slightly under the weight of the Louisiana sun, its heat pressing against her like a physical force. "Every single one," she said, forcing a faint smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Though I might need to paint faster now. Medical bills don't care about accidents." Her attempt at humor fell flat, weighed down by the truth she couldn't hide. Each painting was a lifeline, a desperate bid to buy another week of treatment, another day of life. Kennedy studied her, the strain in her breathing, the way she braced herself against the fallen table for balance, her thin frame barely holding her upright. "How much for this one?" he asked, still holding the kite painting, his voice gentle but deliberate. $40. Hannah said, then, noting the quality of his suit and the quiet authority in his presence, added quickly, "But I could do 30. "I'll take 5, Kennedy replied without hesitation, his southern drawl softening the edges of his words. 200 for all of them. Hannah's breath caught pride, clashing with desperation in her chest. $200 could cover a week's worth of medication, maybe 2 if she stretched it. But the offer felt too generous, too much like pity, and her pride bristled at the thought. "You don't have to do that," she said, voice barely above a whisper, her eyes fixed on the ground. "This isn't charity," Kennedy said, his tone warm but firm, carrying the conviction of someone who'd spent years advocating for others. "These paintings have heart. They'd mean something on my office walls, remind me of the people I'm here to serve. People like you, Hannah." She looked up, startled that he'd overheard her name from a nearby vendor's greeting. His eyes held no judgment, only a quiet sincerity that made her want to believe him. She hesitated, then nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. As she began wrapping the paintings, the kite a bayou sunset, glowing with purples and golds. A lone figure standing under a street lamp, a bridge over calm waters reflecting a fading sky, and two hands reaching across a void. Her movements were slow, deliberate, each one a battle against the fatigue that clung to her like a shadow. Her hands trembled as she folded the paper around the canvases, and a medical bill slipped from her bag, fluttering to the ground. The $39,000 balance, stamped with angry red past due warnings, glared up at them like an accusation. Hannah snatched it up, shoving it back into her bag, her cheeks burning with shame. "I need to go," she said, voice tight, avoiding his gaze. "My meds, they make me drowsy without food, and I missed breakfast." "When did you last eat?" Kennedy asked the question, catching them both off guard. His brow furrowed concern, etching lines into his face. Hannah frowned, trying to piece together the blur of the past day. "Yesterday, I think," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "Nausea makes it tough to keep anything down." Kennedy pulled out his phone, his movements quick but calm. "There's a po' boy stand just down the street. Best shrimp in New Orleans. What can you manage?" "I can't let you." "You're not letting me," he interrupted, a gentle smile breaking through his drawl, softening the insistence. "We just made a sale. Let's call it a celebration." Minutes later, they sat on a shaded bench under a sprawling oak, its branches heavy with Spanish moss. Hannah nibbled a plain piece of bread, the only thing her stomach could tolerate, while Kennedy sipped iced tea, his eyes discreetly watching her struggle to